Thomas Stone sat at his marble table, staring at a crushed white cake box that held the biggest mistake of his life. He was a billionaire who built skyscrapers, but he had just allowed a lie to destroy the woman who mattered most to him. He watched from his tower as Elena, his most loyal maid, was dragged away in the rain, accused of a theft he knew she didn't commit. Now, to win her back, he would have to trade his suit for an apron and learn the true cost of a life he had always taken for granted. Thomas Stone could count the sound of the house like a patient counts breaths. The marble foyer held a hush that belonged to wealth, a polished echo, a measured step, a life that had the neatness of a ledger and the loneliness of an unread book. On his long dining table sat a cake box, a small thing like an apology he had not yet learned to give. Across town, the rain sounded different on tin roofs. Elena held the same rhythm of habit. She folded her apron like a flag and pushed a cheap box of cake under her arm. It was meant for a neighbor's child, a small joy in a neighborhood that smelled of wet laundry and frying oil. Elena's hands were steady because they had to be. They knew how to coax a burnt pan back to life and how to rehearse a smile until it fit the person she served. But this week, a shadow fell over Elena's small world. A fragile gold necklace had disappeared from the Stone mansion. The staff searched, the managers whispered, and suddenly Elena was called into the study. Sophie, a regular guest who measured people by their price tags, found Elena like a spotlight. Accusation arrives thin and sharp. Stolen, the words sliced through the air. Elena felt the room close in. The manager, fearing a scandal more than a human face, insisted on order. They fired her on the spot. As Elena was escorted out, her cake box slipped from her fingers, skidding along the hall like a small confession. Thomas was told. He sat with the unopened cake box and heard the rain double its insistence. He had watched Elena for months, not as a judge, but as a man drawn to her steady, honest presence. He knew she hadn't taken it. He had the power to stop the firing, but in that moment he let the house's cold machinery run its course. His silence was the true crime. Elena went home to her mother's narrow kitchen. She didn't cry. She folded her humiliation into a practical knot because there were groceries to pay for. She took odd jobs at a local bakery, standing on a crate to reach the counter. Daniel couldn't stay in his tower. He put on a raincoat and drove to the corner where Elena's bus stopped. He didn't come as a billionaire. He came as a stranger. He watched her across the street, adjusting a cake display with a profile that cut the air like someone who had stitched herself back together. He decided to step closer, not to force an explanation, but to learn the language of repair. He walked into the bakery, the bell chiming above the door.
Elena looked up, but there was no flicker of recognition. To her, he was just another man with wet shoes. Thomas began to show up every day. He washed dishes in the back, he chopped onions. He felt the dignity of honest labor cut into him like a file. He watched Elena wrap a blanket around a shivering child and realized that her dignity wasn't a performance, it was who she was. Finally, he spoke. "Elena," he began, and the syllable felt like a promise he hadn't earned. "I'm sorry. I watched and didn't speak up when it mattered. I allowed the lie to stand." He confessed everything, the secret partnership he had used to fund community kitchens, and the cowardice that kept him silent during her dismissal. He didn't offer a check, he offered accountability. He went back to his mansion and forced the truth out. The necklace was found, misplaced by a vendor. Thomas ensured the mansion issued a formal statement clearing Elena's name. But trust is rebuilt plank by plank. Thomas didn't ask her to come back as a maid. He proposed a partnership, a community bakery called The Hearth, where Elena would be the co-owner with real power and a real stake. "I will not be a charity story," Elena told him. I want equity, not pity." They built the bakery together. Thomas washed the pots while Elena taught apprentices how to fold dough. Their partnership grew like a careful braid, not drama, but shared labor. A year after the cake box hit the floor, they sat in the bakery they built. Thomas reached into a drawer and pulled out the old, frayed white box. "You kept it," Elena said, "as a reminder that skyscrapers are easy to build, but trust takes a lifetime. True fortune isn't where you put your name, it's in the hands that help you stand up when the world tries to knock you down." If this story of a man who found his heart in a humble bakery touched you, subscribe to Real Compass. We bring you stories that prove that even the biggest mistakes can be repaired with enough courage and work. Click the like button if you believe that everyone deserves a second chance to do the right thing. And tell us in the comments, would you have the strength to forgive someone who stayed silent while you were wrongly accused? Thank you for watching, and remember, the most important work you'll ever do is the work of repair. We'll see you in the next story.